Good evening, everyone. Distinguished guests, respect faculty members, dear students, and members of the public. My name is Kat from Department of Interior Architecture, and I'm honored to serve you as a moderator of the event. Welcome to the Architecture and Design for Society Lecture Series, Academic Years 2025. We are delighted to have you with us this evening for another thought-provoking session in our annual series that connect architectural knowledge with social engagement. Before starting today's event, I would like to make several important announcements. Registered architects may claim CPD point for attend today's sessions. Participants who attend at least 80% of all lectures in the Architecture and Design for Society lecture series will receive a certificate of completion, which may be eligible for credit bank accumulations. Today's lecture is entitled Resilient and Sustainable Design for Waterfront City by Associate Professor Dr. Mastura Adams, Head of Architecture Department, Faculty of Built Environment, University, Malaya, Malaysia. To begin our program, it is my great honor to invite the Dean of Faculty of Architecture, Chulalongkorn University, Assistant Professor Sarayut Sapsuk, to deliver opening remarks.
Thank you. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our last sessions of the Architecture and Design for Society lecture series for the first semester of academic year 2025 here in the Faculty of Architecture, Chulalongkorn University. So, on behalf of the faculties, I'm very pleased to welcome our distinguished guests from University Malaya, who are here as a part of collaborative workshop with the Department of the Interior Architecture taking place this week from Monday to today. We are excited to host a group of 30 students from University Malaya, led by Associate Professor Dr. Mastura Adam, Head of the Architecture Department, and Dr. Fur, Master of Architecture Coordinator, Faculty of Built Environment. Their visits mark important collaborations between University Malaya and Chulalongkorn University, fostering international exchange and shared inquiry into design, sustainable, and urban futures. This evening lecture, titled Resilience and Sustainable Urban Design in Waterfront Cities, extends that collaborations into the public sphere. We are honored to have them with us and grateful for their contribution to our students and wider Faculty of Architecture community. Thanks Ajahn Kitiorn, Ajahn Sek, Ajahn Randa, Ajahn Vittinan to our teaching and our teaching teams from Department of Interior Architecture for helping organizing this event. Thank you Ajahn Srinta for kindly serving as our MC this evening. And we would like to apologize if anything is, if you've got a problem, uncomfortable here. So please give us an apologize on this. And we hope that with these collaborations, we'll bring together the future one, and we hope that someday we'll bring our students to University Malaya and do the workshop there as well. So please join me to welcome Professor Mastura. But before that, I think there's a photo session, right, with a gift. Thank you.
My privilege to introduce our speaker. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Mastura.
Hi everyone. Very good evening, yeah? Okay, thank you very much for coming. I know that some of you come all the way from far to come and hear the sharing session together with me on the topic of resilient and sustainable urban design for Waterfront City. Thank you very much again for the Deputy Dean, Dr. Warisha, and Dr. Warisha, and Dr. Prin, Dr. Prin, together with us, Dr. Kitiorn, Dr. Ronda, Dr. Pim, my fellow colleague from Kuala Lumpur. I have 5 handsome future is in the past. reflection and also conclusion. All right, the significant, I may want to sit here. Stand here. Is it okay? Yeah. All right, okay. So the significance of waterfront city, when we define about waterfront city, it is always giving a characteristic of their context, geographical location, which is proximity to the water bodies such as oceans, sea, rivers, lakes, and many others. Yeah. And it is very important and playing a very pivotal role in our life, in our everyday living, whereby it is actually shaping the human civilization ever since in many civilizations throughout the global. Yeah? And then the location along the water bodies has made the natural hub, like for example, trading, water transportation, cultural exchange, and human and urban development also happening along the river. Basically, the river is actually the main nadi in Malay, nerve. Yeah, is becoming a main nerve in our living. Yeah. And as for today, we are striving to leverage the water body in terms of economic vitality, tourism, ecology stewardship, and also placemaking. So this is actually what we are doing throughout the world, throughout the cities that having these particular sources of water that going through the city. And issues related to waterfront city is actually rising the sea levels and flooding risks. This is actually what we are all experiencing. Like for example, that this one, yeah, this is about the social displacement, and this is in Kuala Lumpur. This is at the confluence of two rivers in Kuala Lumpur, and we always have got the flooding. And ironically, that we have done about 80 million project worth of money. The budget is actually between the ground and the sky. So it is actually quite exclusive project whereby we have got a koi fish pond here. And during the flooding, all the koi fish has already gone together in the river. So that is actually the missed opportunity that we have. And this is also in Kuala Lumpur. So this is actually what is happening, in during the flash flood season and whatnot. So this is definitely, we are very, close, our heart is close to this animal and ecology, but then they are also affected with these particular, issues related to the rising of the sea levels. Yeah. And in that case, we are actually here to discuss about, understanding about urban resilience. What does it mean by that? And it is actually, as I mentioned there, it is not an optional ideals, but they are actually essential framework to ensure that our waterfront remain livable, adaptive, and culturally grounded. I think this is actually the great challenges that we are all facing in making culturally grounded. At the same time, we would like to have modernization and also adopting whatever that the Westerners or throughout the projects, successful project elsewhere in the globe. Yeah. And then, like for example, definition, we started off with the urban resilient definition, which refers to the capacity of city to absorb shock, yeah, to adapt to challenge, ensuring the sustainability and well-being among the urban population. And there are three dimensions which I will be able to, elaborate further of the dimension that is actually related to resiliency in the urban, which is social, economy, and environmental. This is actually the key pillars of the Sustainable Development Goal. Yeah? And all in all, is actually contributing to the ability to recover from crisis, thriving in the long term. Not only in the long term, what we are doing in Kudijin in this particular project is actually some we can able to do it or to make the improvement in the short term, medium term, and also in the long term. Yeah. And then adapting to environmental changes, yes, definitely city must implement strategies and practices that enhance the adaptability so that we can actually able to foster, able to have some kind of like a robustness throughout the development. robustness will actually come in many layers. Yeah, robustness in terms of spatial changes of the spaces, and also robustness in terms of change of mindset as well. All right, so the capacity that built the city is actually coming from people. Yeah, free people, city infrastructure, city ecosystem, and they are all in all is actually about absorb, adapt, and recover. So within this is actually the key dimension, which is under the environmental resilience. So this is actually the goal of within the environmental resilience, safeguarding the ecology system. Definitely, this is actually what we are doing to make it balanced, yeah, in terms of green and blue ecosystem. Restoring mangrove and wetland, nature buffers that protect against floods. This is actually what developers normally, we have got this particular project in Malacca River, whereby the mangrove is already been, being chiseled away from the river. That is actually the main protection for the flood. And spatial resilience, like for example, creating adaptable urban form that can withstand environmental shock while supporting everyday life. And last but not least, it's actually about empowering community to participate in planning and decision making, ensuring inclusivity and equity in the development. I think this is actually about making city for all, yeah. Inclusivity, definitely, but making sure that equity throughout the life of the people. Yeah, and this is actually, if I may, to share the technique that been done in Japan, which they call it as machizukuri, whereby community participatory is actually working well with the government so that it can make happen of many things, especially in retaining the cultural value of the certain area or certain district within the city. And this is again sustainability and waterfront, whereby the harmony, when we talk about harmony, is actually through integrating ecology and culture. I think this is actually the program that we are doing currently in maintaining and harmony between the two. So within this is actually again another goal that we would like to achieve, which is ecological balance, yeah, through green-blue infrastructure, floodable parks, and also nature-based solution. This is actually what we can see from several of the students' suggestion, on how can we make do with the site. We have got 5 sites for this particular project. We have been given 5 sites to work together with students from Chulalongkorn and UM. So this is actually what we are doing in making it balanced and harmony with the ecology. Cultural continuity, definitely preserving or heritage-led, yeah, heritage-led in a way that preserving heritage value and local identity that define the place. So this is actually when some of the work, when the students suggesting that how are you going to do with the current community, or we're going to relocate them. Well, for the exercise, that is good. But in terms of urban design practice, we need to actually find an actual location, or maybe we could actually make do with a design that incorporating them together with the design idea. So that could be whether it is actually 50% can be retained, or at least 30% that is actually elderly, for example, can be able to stay there. So perhaps, the development of elderly care or something can still stay there and create and maintain the living in that particular program. Yeah. And economy vitality, yeah, encourage local economies and also creative industry. Well, when we talk about creative industry, there are many ways for us to do it, and very much into placemaking, and we are still within the try and error. Yeah, try and error. It is also like when you do the placemaking and finding the lost spaces within the space, also a try and error kind of project. But at least we are having that as part of initiative in making the urban spaces vibrant, diverse, and also bring back the creativity in the area, so that that will actually provide the job opportunity for the locals, yeah, through the diverse of tourism and whatnot. And then social inclusivity. This is actually what we're talking about, ensuring accessibility and also livability for all groups, yeah, for children and many more. For example, when we walked through the Kudijin area, so I saw several kindergarten within the housing area. So how can we make sure that the children are having enough space for them to run about and whatnot, and living, as they want it to be? So whether the space is actually too tight, or what are you going to do with that, for example, yeah? So those are the things that I have captured during our site visit on Monday. And yes, this is actually design principle for resilient waterfront. Number one is actually about permeability and connectivity, ensuring public access to the waterfront while integrating mobility. I think this principle is actually something that worth for you to look at and worth for you to explore and experiment in your design. Yeah, like for example here, ensuring public access to the waterfront while integrating mobility network, meaning to say integrating mobility network within several mode of transportation, yeah, whether it is on foot, in the vehicular, or in the light rail transit and whatnot. So those particular diverse of mode of transportation is actually needed in supporting people movement within the urban area, and especially at the waterfront area. And number two, ecological restoration, designing with water, not against it. Yeah, designing with water, creating landscape that absorb and adapt. So this is actually another key words, that absorb, adapt, and recover. Yeah. And the third one is about cultural continuity, embedding heritage narrative into design to strengthen place identity and its own image, because I saw, like, when we walk through the alleyway, there's a massage, the house turned into some kind of like a house business. I think that is actually sustainable. So that is actually some kind of like a cultural diversity that we may want to actually look into it, and maybe we can actually describe what kind of character within that particular district. So that character is actually highlighting about the image and identity of a place, so that will actually sustain longer, and that will actually make part of your concept ideas that is actually will stand in the long term, not just a short term kind of a concept. Yeah. And then community empowerment, involving residents as co-creator of their urban environment. If you just creating a space, if you're designing a space, but if you did not actually provide a programming to it, so it's not going to be a place for them. It's not going to engage them. You're not like bringing a sense of belongings to them. So this is actually, even though community and cultural continuity is just a word, but it has got a deeper meaning to it. Yeah. So meaning to say, creating spaces is good, but making it as a place, that is actually what we want. So how to making it as a place is actually through several activities and programming throughout 24 hours. So you are the designer who will determine how are they going to use it. Yeah, but we can actually say how is it, but then the most importantly is actually identify and also observe what do they actually really, what is their real needs of the area. So that will be sustained, and it's not going to be just a white elephant project, all right? Okay, so design flexibility. This is actually about robustness, yeah, where allowing spaces to adapt over time to social, climate, and economic changes. Meaning to say, when you're providing as a square or something, that should be able to transform into other types of activities, like you will be doing as a flea market over the weekend. You don't have to rely on chak to chak over the weekend. You get what I mean? But then chak to chak is actually very big. But the flea market, whereby the community will actually have their own, like, jumbo sale of their belongings and whatnot with a very, reasonable price. So I think that is actually about transforming or making the spaces robust, So that is actually about design flexibility. And last but not least, it's actually about human-centered and responsive design, whereby that goes to the architectural kind of approach of building design, whether you are designing a pavilion, whether you are designing just a pathway, but climate else and human-centered, how they actually utilize the spaces is actually the utmost important component. All right, talking about this is actually the successful component in making Waterfront City. Are able to describe about 5. Actually, if we discuss it further, we can actually have the list up to almost could be the 10, but this is, I think, the most important, yeah. So basically, vibrant public realm. So this is actually, when we talk about public realm, which integrate water as a central element of urban life, connecting accessibility in the city. Public realm, again, making spaces, placemaking, and so on and so forth. So this is actually making the public life, urban spaces as a public life. You are creating public spaces as urban living room. Like you are here sitting, like a living room, you have a very nice couch, sofa in the house, in the indoor. Similarly, when you are in the outdoor spaces, you need some comfortable spaces that you be able to stay longer, not just 5 minutes outdoor and then you just like get into the building. So we want everybody to stay outdoor longer. However, with this particular climate, is there any way or there is no way at all for us to do it? I believe that there is actually a lot of way. And when first day when we came here, we walked from Chulalongkorn house through the garden, and I really amazed with the 3 canopies being provided within the landscape. That allow us, yes, we sweat, but then it is actually very cozy with the variety of landscape, which you have got the canopy as a shelter, natural shelter. You also have got a ground cover so that it make your movement is actually relaxed and casual, so that we arrive at this place. It's just that we need to actually take the upper bridge elevator. That is actually nothing that we can do, for the safety again. Anyway, okay, let's move on to the number 2 is actually resilient infrastructure to adapt to environmental changes such as flooding or sea level. So this one infrastructure, whether or not you wanted to make it the pedestrian walkway at several levels, So not only on grade, but also above grade, elevated at several area, or you can actually have the pedestrian walkway punching from building to building at the upper level. That could be one of the solution. And I suppose that many other way of doing it. And number 3, mixed-use development, combining living, recreation, commerce, and cultural spaces. This is actually about variety of users to make the city or urban area sustainable. Otherwise, it is not going to sustain. You need people to live in the area. Otherwise, you are going to leave the city and leave them like a jungle forest at night, and then everybody like gushing into the city during the daytime. That is not sustainable. And then recreation, definitely it needs to have some balance in terms of health and well-being. So this is actually important. And I really appreciate that Chula University have got a very, sophisticated park next to our hostel, our hotel. So that is, I think, a great initiative done. And number 4 is actually sustainable planning approach, including ecological restoration and green-blue infrastructure. And last but not least, strong waterfront image and identity that enhances the city character, heritage, and sense of place. I think this is actually another key things that remain the heritage or the community value of that, you know. So the image and identity of the area is actually differs. So later after this, I'm going to show you a different approach of different city that giving a you know, you can actually recognize the waterfront based on image and also identity of the place, yeah. All right, and just to share with everyone, perhaps most of you understand about this, and this is actually about urban design concept and elements for public realm. So since we are doing related to this particular project, I just introduced maybe some of the lecturers here understand about this, yeah. And this is actually about the component that helping you not to get lost in the city. Yeah, so this is actually part of the understanding about image and identity that giving a character of a places. So I will start with this one, which is path. Yeah, the building has been characterized. I mean, the area characterized by the path. Like I mentioned, when we walk through from the hotel to Faculty of Architecture, we walk through the path, which the path has got a canopy tree that has given a very unique image of Chulalongkorn University. And we bump into a building that is heritage building on the other side. So that again giving us an impression, oh, this is really an old university that is actually hold the prestigious of education in Thailand. So that is actually how you sort of like bringing in your feeling and emotion while you actually walking through the path. It is not just a path, but the path has got its own character and identity that represent Chulalongkorn University. That is, for example, yeah. And you can actually describe when you go along the Kudajin area, for example, when we are actually moving from the temple to the Kudijin Museum. So I noticed that they have got a very unique way of addressing the path, you know, the main primary path, the secondary, the lane, and also another small little lane with the address, like for example, Kudijin 1, Kudijin 2, Kudijin 1/1, you know. So that is actually you getting into the lane after the lane. I'm not so sure whether it goes Kudijin 1/1 and /1 again. I don't think so, but it is just 1/1, yeah. So that is actually how I noticed about the lane, how unique is the lane. That is actually path. So that kind of pathway, you know, is actually making the image and identity of Kudijin district. Yeah, all right. So notes, this is the intersection. Yeah, at the intersection, we also can see some kind like a building. I mean, the houses, they personalize their own doorways, you know, with the potted plants and whatsoever. So that is actually about they're making it into a meeting point. So nodes is actually junction that make a meeting point, you know, much more visible and identifiable and recognizable, yeah, so that you don't get lost. You can actually get your friend, okay, meet me at that particular junction, for example. Landmark, yeah, definitely. When we went to the temple, that is actually really a landmark. And also Santa Cruz Church is a landmark. That is a great landmark. So with that particular landmark, so student, you can be able to actually create a pathway or vista towards the landmark, so that would make the journey, you know, even though you are at the Kudijin 9/1, you know, you can actually see, you can get into the main so that you have the vista towards the Santa Cruz church, yeah. And edges also important, whereby it is defined by the river, yeah, or the edges of the building facade. So you can actually see how does the building facade give the architectural language, you know, communicating with you while walking throughout the pathway, yeah. So that is about edges. And district, Kudijin as actually a district. If we in urban planning, the way defining the district could be with a number of population, but in urban design, district is actually in a much more smaller, but smaller, the smaller area that able to cover the characteristic of the area due to the several other components like senses, yeah, smell, hearing, somebody like, doing something, somebody like selling ice cream at their doorways, and those are the senses that comes along with the district that really create the image and identity of Kudijin community, for example, or district, yeah. And then this is again some of the work that, addressing or explaining about each and every of the 5 elements in Kevin Lynch theory. Yeah, similarly on this one is explaining about the landmarks. This is actually in Prague. This is in Prague, what is the name of the river? But there is actually one romantic bridges that is what I call as a Wenceslas bridge there, and it is really romantic. Okay, and yeah. I'm going to share with you some of the best practice of successful waterfront revitalization. Like for example, this is in Salford Quay, Manchester, urban regeneration, which is not that far from the Old Trafford, those who are Manchester United fan, yeah. And I've been living here for about 4 years, yeah, while doing my PhD here. And this is actually about the Salford Quay, which is very derelict. And when I visited in a first time back in 1994, Manchester, Glasgow, I feel that it is too gloomy. I feel that everywhere is actually color in gray. It is just because of this is actually the area whereby the import-export harbor, whereby they produce, they sort of like, exchange cotton. And this is actually where the factories of clothing factories is happening. And now they already transformed this. So when I visited Manchester again in 2008 and stayed there for about 4 years, this is actually what has been transformed. That is really amazing, whereby they transform and making it much more vibrant and having more kind of, like for example here, transform a derelict industrial area into the vibrant waterfront hub known as Media City. So this is actually a media city. And this is actually the canal that they are actually making and programming for the panting, canoeing and everything. And this is a light kind of festival in the area, and this is actually part of the housing. So if you can see, this is actually a consolidation of all the 5 components that we have, mentioned previously, that the housing as well. So it need to have people living in this area. All right, so the key lesson that we can take from here, a sustainable waterfront prioritize public accessibility and environmental restoration as core value of urban life. Yeah, so you may need to actually describe about that in this manner as a designer. All right, everyone? Okay. Are you all with me still? All right, okay, good. Okay. All right, next is actually about Singapore Marina Bay and ABC Water Program. So Singapore Marina Bay represent a visionary integrating the urban design, water management, and also environmental stewardship, whereby the government is actually having this what called Active, Beautiful, Clean Water, ABC Water Program. So Singapore transformed the canals and also the reservoir into vibrant, multifunctional spaces into this, so that it can sort of like uplift the well-being, health, and also the ecology, the harmony between people and the nature and the water. And this is actually all the development along the Marina Bay. And this is actually, as you all know, these are all the famous kind of building, and it is actually a tourist must to come. And this is places of interest, yeah? And this is actually the activities, meaning to say when you are providing all of these spaces, not only, the spaces is actually whether it is payable, if you just walk around here, it is free actually. unless if you go by, by the bay, garden by the bay, yes, And these are all the activities. So the spaces need to be transformed into some kind like a places for everyone. All right, the key lesson here is actually smart water management and ecological design can coexist with high-density urban growth, creating a balanced city-water relationship. So we have got a very great relationship with water, everyone. Every day we need water, right? So we cannot live without water. So better we make good about what has been so precious about this component, yeah? All right, so this is actually in Malacca Waterfront program. So it represents a holistic vision for sustainable heritage-led waterfront development, whereby this is actually one of the UNESCO World Heritage Site, Malacca, So basically, it is a strategic urban revitalization whereby it is aimed to transform the historical coastal and riverfront area. And as you know, Malacca has got a history of colonialization starting from Portuguese, from Dutch, and also from British. So they have back to Malacca Sultanate previously before Portuguese came in. And this is actually the activities closer to the river. So this is actually the Dutch building, the heritage part. And this is also the night time, whereby this is actually play the role of making people happy at night, everybody happy. So they are actually using many kinds of approach, like using Hello Kitty as a substance to make the tourism happening. But be careful, because some of the area when they do it, it is actually becoming a Disneyfication. So they just paint the mural accordingly and then making into a very vibrant color, which is not, I did not show it in here, but there's quite plenty of area that has been painted in a colorful mural, which is not really jive to the heritage building in this area. So Disneyfication is actually something that a challenge for everyone not to do, not to just hanging Hello Kitty everywhere, and then that is actually a center of attraction. That is not the way you do the urban design, All right, so the lesson learned here is actually strengthen its identity as a heritage-focused tourism destination while improving livability for local community, job opportunity. That is actually what we are looking at the same time, All right, and the Kudijin, what we learned from the Kudijin is future is in the past. Future is in the past. What does it mean? It is actually open up to debate, right? Okay, so what I learned from here is actually demonstrate how the wisdom of the past in architecture, settlement patterns, and also community practices guide the design of a sustainable future. So it is a challenge for us to reinterpret of these traditional value through contemporary urban design strategies. We do not want to have to give solution which is overpowering the traditional value. So what it can be done is actually several strategies, like for example, adaptive reuse of heritage structure, participatory planning. This is actually, I think, what is needed to make it sustain, and contact responsive design that respects scale, materials, and also cultural narrative. So this is actually what been discussed throughout the presentation today, And by understanding how Kudijin built form has evolved in response to its riverside ecology, we can derive design principles that are both contextual and also forward-looking. So this is about the call of action, and this is a reflection of what we have discussed, which is about bridging history and modernity. This is actually a challenge for everyone, but it is actually a call of action as well, because everybody here are very creative. They are all architect to be, an interior designer. They're able to make things happen in the built environment. So by integrating traditional architectural elements and interior design element with contemporary design to create harmonious urban landscape that respect cultural heritage, I think this is actually what we need really careful, but at the same time, do not limit yourself. Otherwise, you don't get a good, ideas. Definitely, I do not know whether the Zaha Hadid kind of approach is actually relevant in here, but perhaps something that we can learn from there. There are many others like Renzo Piano, Norman Foster, and many others. And in fact, we do actually have our local architects that are able to guide, in making it is more responsive design and culturally led design. And this is again emphasizing community participation. I think without the community, it won't happen. The design need to sustain because of the community needs. Yeah. So think about their needs first, then only the rest come later. And then vision for resilient urban life, develop adaptable urban environment that withstand environmental changes and promote sense of ownership and belonging within the community. This is actually what we want to make our waterfront resilient, waterfront city resilient. So is lost in Sungai Petani community. So so please, Mr. Okay. We're going to take a look on the video design by Lim Jeng Ying, and together with us, Architect Gary is actually together supervising this particular student from Master of Architecture Year 5. Yeah.
And this is the story of my late grandfather used to tell me during my childhood. Sungai Petani, a lively town in Kedah, Malaysia, has a history shaped by the courageous Chinese immigrants from the 19th and early 20th century. Facing hardship, they braved perilous sea journeys from China, with many losing their lives. The group of Teochews settled in Sungai Petani, utilizing the river's resources to farm and fish, blending with the local Malay populations. Their hard work and the river's bounty laid the foundations for their new lives. The introductions of the rubber plantations by the British marked a turning point, transforming Sungai Petani into a bustling hub. However, industrialization brought both prosperity and environmental degradations. The river that once breathed life into the community is now sorrow. Its waters slowly die, and a silent witness to the changes time has brought. And I was wondering, how can I contribute to the place? A place where I call home, Sungai Petani. Located at the north of Malaysia, Sungai Petani was a historical riverine settlement, started by the lifeline of the place, the river. And yet, today, the river has lost its significance. What makes people forget about the river? The lifeline, the birthplace, and the roots. Now, the urban fabric is disconnected. The river is polluted, and the image as a riverfront city is lost. The diminutive remnants of cultural elements will eventually be renovated or redeveloped in the course of urban development. The overarching issue is the losing sense of place, which causes loss of identity, social detachment, and dehumanized environment, and to solve this, the image of Sungai Petani as the riverfront city, the town center, needs to be rebuilt. So the whole design process actually started from a macro view with a master plan, with the concept of adapt, connect, and empower. Adapt is to reconstruct the landscape framework. connect to reconstruct the mobility and public realm, and empower, which is to reconstruct the community framework. The site is chosen at the convergence of the old town and the new town, the convergence of the past and current, and the convergence of the nature and the built environment. This is where the river flows and the railway passing through. It will be an urban connector that connects all directions. The design concept is ecotone, a transitional relationship where two different ecosystems meet. Ecosystem that I refer here is the ecotones of nature and culture. It is where nature and the built environment meets, and also on how the human reconnects back to the water bodies. It is a riverine living museum to celebrate the river history as a welcoming venue for learning, enjoyment, and community gathering. And most importantly, it is to foster innovations in the community. The design strategies begin by solving the issue of the contrast relationship between the built environment and the water bodies. This is to soften the water edge by creating a promenade. The biosphere will help to filter and act as a transitional medium. And this relationship is further enhanced by responding to the tidal data. The promenade is divided into 3 tiers to react to the high and low tides of the river. And it is to create an urban connector. Connection between the old and new town of Sungai Petani has been restored with a new pedestrianized green gateway. And although the site is located at such a significant spot of Sungai Petani Old Town, it is actually isolated. The idea is to extend the existing vibrant cultural streets into the site by creating an axis in order to discharge human flow into the nodes of the site. And in the ideations of creating a distinctive frontage experience, there are 2 frontage at the site. The north, from the main street Jalan Kolakatil, is to create a welcoming sense and encourage an informal greeting through a community park before entering the living museum. And on the other side, through Jalan Ibrahim, it is to create a sense of distinctiveness as the existing landmark of Sungai Petani is located along the same street. The idea is not to overshadow the landmark. An urban void is created to increase the permeability that tone down the entrance here. And the building massing and height is reduced gradually from inland to the river. The building mass is fragmented in a way to mimic the nature of how mangrove wetland reconstruct naturally. And it's always started a few points and starts spreading. And the whole design idea is inspired by the idea of Tapok Pang, which means a temporary cross shape that is built by the local community themselves. The idea is to bring back these memories of the local community. When they see the temporary cross shape, they are reminded by the sense of welcoming and sense of gathering. The roof are lifted, are pushed, and touch the ground, splitted to create different volumes that create distinctive experience. And the whole spatial experience is further curated based on a choreographed timelines of riverine experience with a phenomenology approach. By crafting the spatial experience, the design aims to evoke a sense of wonder, nostalgic, and cultural richness, creating memorable encounters that establish deep emotions connections between the user and the built environment. And so, the story begins. It consists of a series of living museums and galleries arranged to the central themes of the biosphere, and it is further zoned into 3: the community, culture, and the ecology. It is curated into 5 themes to curate the riverine experience. Theme 1, it is about flourishing on the riverbank. From the Jalan Kolakatil, the main entrance will be entering the community park. At the community park, it is a series of river-like valley that cut into landscape to create a series of passageways. And at the border of the passageway, there are planters that allow visitors to sit their plant. You will see how the border of the passageway turned into a colorful landscape in time, and it is further crafted into like high narrow play, low wide river bed, and overhead cave. And from the community park, you enter the community plaza. It functions as a primary welcome spot for visitors and a daily gathering place for the community. Not only serves for community events and celebrations, but it is also transitions into a temporary gallery curated by the locals. Further into the community plaza, there is a community think tank managed by a group of young individuals who have recently returned to their homeland. This
All right, so I will be providing everyone with a link so you can actually further take a look and discover what you have to designing, especially for the making harmony between the ecology and human, and also culturally devoted into the design. Can I get back to the slide, please? Okay, so that is about my knowledge sharing with everyone. Kapinka. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mastura. And now we are at the Q&A session. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. We will provide a microphone for you. อ๋อหรือว่าถามเป็นภาษาไทยก็ได้นะคะ Are there any questions?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. My name is Michael. I'm a PhD student here in Chula, and my research is around resilience, but centered around housing resilience, and not on waterfront communities, but I really want to understand about the justice issue when it comes to riverfront development. I realize that most revitalization, mostly we tend to, when the place becomes vibrant, the indigenous people mostly tend to be displaced because of the economic boost within such places. So how do we handle justice in terms of making sure those people are still part of the development, even at the long run? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perhaps I'll try to answer about this. About justice issue, I suppose that this is actually about giving empowerment to the community, giving back the empowerment to the community, meaning to say that we are all stakeholders, and as a community, whether or not you are the Aborigine people or any kind, that is actually where you live, you stay, you are part of the community. So justice, I suppose that we need this particular integration. That is why I mentioned about Machizukuri just now. Perhaps you can take a look on the several write-up on Machizukuri, whereby how powerful is actually the community participatory in making, in put forward what they need, what they want in the in their everyday living, regardless whether it has been transformed, whether it is been revitalized by right, whatever approaches, whatever improvement be made by all party developers, investors, it should be given a benefit to the local community. So if the local community been left behind, meaning something somewhere that is not right, whereby we ourselves need to take part of the process, in making our existence much more, sustained in the area. I hope that I can answer that question, because when I show the project by Salford, Salford Key Development, that is actually again another conflict and issue after they have revitalized the area, is about increase of land house value. housing strike up prices and whatnot. So how would the local community afford to buy? That is actually another sort of like debate is actually happening after the revitalization program completed. Yeah. All right.
Any other questions?
So what do you think about the future is the part with AI?
Okay.
The future with AI.
Future with AI.
You cannot avoid it.
Yeah.
AI
Yeah.
assistant everything. So what do you think about this thing with AI?
Well, AI. To me, AI is a tool. The best brain is always the human. Because we are the one who give prompt to the AI to come up with something to help us out. So it is just a tool. So it is super, super wrong if we think that AI is actually overpowering everything, but they are just a tool. So the human power in making AI working for us is actually the most important component. So I hope whatever the students are doing, if you are actually getting illustration, how the future, going to be, there is always need to go back to the grounded, meaning to say the community again. The needs of the community cannot beat out or cannot like superficial by the AI. The community needs is current, is relevant in the current state. So that is why the development of the city is actually run over time, run over the period. We can actually go advanced, but however, it is always come to the finance, budget, developer, investors, and then the people's need. That is, I suppose that a certain element and component that AI can do, but there are certain things that the AI cannot do. Yeah. Sometimes, politicians actually play an important role than AI. Yeah, could be. Yeah. That could be my answer. Maybe it is actually not that right, but I always feel that that is actually human powered, yeah, in controlling the AI. And as an architect, I think we can actually get AI to help us out, but definitely wouldn't able to ask them to really designing the structure for you. Yes, you can do, but understanding the structure because you are the one who will deal with the contractor, right? So not robot dealing with the contractor on behalf of you, definitely no.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful presentation. I would like to ask you a project in Malacca that after being listed as a World Heritage and the project of the waterfront of Malacca has been changed from the day 1, 2008 until now. What will be the future of the waterfront of Malacca?
I am not involving directly with the project, but I suppose that the future is to make it sustain. Yeah, to make it sustain, that needs a lot of effort. Definitely to with the maintain and the water management. I think that is actually what we always need to continuously, making it clean, making it, efficient for the people, and also for the irrigation, for example. So the future is actually always would like to maintain and to make a betterment of the waterfront, but not much development that can be done. However, there are several developers who occupy the area, which is actually ruining mangrove and ruining the local community. But sometimes, as I mentioned, that's why I mentioned about the political wills there. Somehow, that is actually make it, how do I put a nice word to it? The straightforward words is actually spoiling the idea, the design that all designers want it to be, in maintaining the cultural, at the same time, maintaining and harmonious between the ecology. But then those kind of development, we hope that we able to give justice And we need to have the person within the stakeholders who are really brave enough to say this is actually not balance and not harmony between human and the ecology, and what more the water. Yeah, that could be my answer, but I'm not so sure what is it ahead of time. But one of the area, especially at the cornering there is actually a high rise there, which really kills the mangrove. Yeah, I can share with you some of the work done by architects that is actually live and stay in the early settlement in the within the Malacca River, where she grew up together with a small alligator going, getting into the house. But it's okay, that is actually small alligator. But those are the flora and fauna that is actually along the river, but now it's gone. There is no such memory that they able to retain. So that is really sad. Yeah.
You can see the small alligator in our canals.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. I would like to ask you, can you compare or contrast Kudijin community with Waterfront community in Malaysia, such as Malacca, in terms of community development opportunity?
There is actually some kind like a similarity and differences, not only in Malacca but also in Kampung Air Water Village in Brunei, because they have got almost the same hygienic, those are the issues, and then the building structure, which is timber, and like in Malacca, they have made an embankment, so that maybe towards rural, they still have got building structure that go and that touching directly the river, the water, the river. But then in the Malacca River, especially in the town, it has been mitigated, and so far it is actually quite safe, which is almost similar some of the parts in Kudijin, where they have built the embankment, but not at the Kampung Air in Brunei, because the Kampung Air in Brunei, they are still on steel, which I think that is prone to the the flooding, and also prone to the safety and security for the people. Yeah, I hope that I can answer your question, because but then what I can see the similarity is actually the climate. And then people within this climate, we are actually sharing certain, behavior and attitude. I think that could be somehow there is a bit of similarity in that manners, Yeah.